gonna be a nice deer.
How we doing, folks? Today I'm going to kind of go over how I repair antlers. Some people don't really like repairing antlers because it's not the natural antler and how it was when they killed it, but some people do. And I don't really do it to my own deer, but I have a lot of people that I fix them for. And some full racks and some sheds people want repaired. It just kind of depends. Sometimes they even want the skull repaired. But I'm going to kind of go through how I do it and hopefully make it a little easier for you. So first of all, this obviously the G2 is broken on this big 8-pointer. First thing you want to do, I use clothes hanger, metal clothes hanger. I mean, some people use different stuff, but clothes hanger, and then you find a drill bit that's about the same size as the clothes hanger, and you drill down into the antler, make a nice hole, and stick that clothes hanger in there, and then from there you can kind of form how you want the antler to turn out. I don't know how well you can see that, but it's pretty much all. And then you cut it to length for however long you want it. Some people glue the hanger in. I do. I mean, I don't know if a lot of other people do. I don't really know if I trust having it not glued, because I mean, it only takes one little bump to break it or crack it once the mold's dry, but that all just depends on what you think. Get that glue on there. And I already pre-drilled it and cut the wire and stuff, so it'd save me a little time. Bring it over here and kind of show the camera how that looks. The mold that I use is Fix-It Sculpt. I don't know how well you can see it. Comes in two little containers, and it's actually two separate different sculpts that you mix together, and it makes a putty type stuff. Turns really white. And I mean, you take the two different things together, you figure out how much you're going to need for your tine. And actually, it's pretty easy to work with. I think you're supposed to mix it up for 2 minutes, and once it's mixed, there's like a 4-hour work time that you can mess with it. So I mean, don't get stressed out if your tine is going wrong or you mess up, because you can always just keep working with it. And you're going to need a cup of water. Once you get it all on there, it smooths out really nice with water. That's pretty much everything you need. We're going to go ahead and try and get this tine done. Just kind of make it long and narrow. Really, it's not that hard. I mean, it just kind of takes some time. Gonna put it on there just like that and roll it around the wire. Make sure you're trying to get the wire in the middle as best as you can. And you want to make sure that you let the super glue dry if you do use it, because I've tried doing it right away and it does not work out if you don't let it dry, because the metal comes undone and starts moving all over the place. Just a pain in the butt. Usually I get it all formed on there and then let it sit for a couple minutes and then start at it with the water. But I mean, it's pretty workable. At first I was pretty nervous about doing it, but once I got the hang of it, it's not too bad. The short times are really easy. These long times are kind of a pain in the butt because they like to move around and not cooperate as well. But It shouldn't be too bad. Alright. Pretty much got it formed on there alright. Stuff's pretty messy too, so you might want to get some paper towels. Just take water and start rubbing it on there. The idea is to keep rubbing it until you get the cracks rubbed in and get the fingerprints out of it. Just so it looks like a normal antler. Might take a little bit to do all this, but it's worth it in the long run. Just keep working it in until you can get it as smooth as you possibly can. I got this nice stainless table with a hole I cut in the middle of it, so it makes it easier for holding deer heads and stuff, so you don't gotta worry about it flopping around, because at first I tried doing it without it holding on anything and it's a pain in the butt. But I mean, this stuff is, you can pretty much do anything you want with it. With some water, it's amazing. I didn't realize it worked this good until I actually bought some and tried it. I think it's pretty cheap too. I got 2 of those tubs for, I want to say like 20 bucks. And this is the fifth or sixth rack I've done with it. That's 1 pound. Both of them combined is 1 pound. I didn't think that was going to be enough, but actually it's done a lot more than I ever thought it would, so that's good. You know, you want to kind of look at both of these sides and make sure that they kind of look somewhat even. I think the hardest part about all this is trying to get it colored when you get done. Getting the color match can be difficult, but I've seen to manage. I'll make sure and put a video up of me coloring it. You gotta let this stuff dry for, I think 24 to 48 hours is what they recommend. And make sure it's like in a warmer place. It doesn't dry very well in the cold. Tried that. I think a day and a half later the stuff was still able to put fingerprints in it. It was so wet, but it's all a learning experience. Just keep on forming. Looking pretty good at the top. Now we're gonna see if we can get some on the back side here. Stuff likes to bunch up a little bit. You gotta make sure and you can kind of work your fingers down and move the thickness all the way down. And then when it gets to the bottom, you can scrape it off. It's all, you just gotta keep practicing. You'll kind of learn how the stuff works. It's not too bad once you get used to it. It's actually quite easy now that I've done quite a few of them. But it's all about the practice. And you can always, you know, if you don't have enough, add a little more into it if you need to. It's not gonna not like bond or anything just because it's not rolled up together. It will work. Just gotta keep taking that water and filling in the cracks, going over it, and eventually it'll kind of seal together. This one's actually turning out pretty good. A lot better than I thought. Just keep sprinkling water over it. Make it as good as you can. Another kind of difficult part is right here where it's broken off, trying to get that kind of looking the same. That can be a little difficult sometimes, but I mean, it's not impossible. It's all about working them fingers. And also, if you don't get it how you want it, you can always take sandpaper to this stuff when you're done after it dries. Sandpaper works really well to kind of get that shape or whatever you missed. If there's a little crack or it just doesn't match up with the antler. I mean, also when you stain it and the color doesn't come out right, you can always sand it. This one's actually turning out really good. Make sure you wear crappy clothes when you're doing this too, because the white stuff likes to get on your clothes and it doesn't like to come out. This time's actually working pretty good. Where the crack of the antler is in the mold, sometimes it takes a little bit to get it the same. Just keep working it in, or just let it be and come back with sandpaper. I do that a lot. Another thing I do is when I get done playing with this wet stuff, go through the rack with a paper towel where you touched and wipe it off, because it likes to dry on there. This turned out pretty good. Wipe my hands off. Alright, so I think we pretty much got the pine as good as we wanted for being wet. Kind of go over it and wipe off the creamy stuff that the water leaves behind. And then wipe off the rest of the rack. And then some people might not do this, but I like to go through the mold. I usually take a flathead screwdriver and look at the other G2. I mean, you can kind of scratch those creases in, and there's also creases on this G2. I like to just take a little flathead screwdriver and kind of match those creases so it looks as real as it possibly can. That takes a little bit of time, but I mean, that just depends on the person. To me, I kind of like making it look as real as I can possibly get it, but you might be different. Just keep going through that. Big thing about this is clean off your screwdriver tip so it doesn't leave stuff all over the mold that's going to dry. There's that. know, sometimes when it's wet, I'll just go ahead and, you know, make some scratches in it. Because, I mean, all their tines are going to have some kind of scratches. You know, they do a lot of tree rubbing and stuff, so it's hard to say, but it doesn't look normal when it's just clean. Put a scratch every once in a while. You know, just make it look as real as you can get it. I think this one is pretty much finished up. And also, when you make the scratches, when it dries, you can go through with the antler stain, and you notice on the other tines there's like little creases in it, and those are darker. You can take these little scratches and creases and make with the stain. You can make it darker to match it, look like the other side. It's all just a time little thing. All right, we'll let this dry, and we'll come back when we stain it and sand it. Alright, I've let this dry for about 25 minutes. You know, I didn't really want to move it around without letting it dry for a little bit. I'm going to bring the camera over here so you can kind of get a look at how matched up it actually is. Actually looks really good. So there it is. I'd say that G2 looks pretty close to the other one. You can kind of see the creases, not really. Too much light. But it turned out pretty good. Pretty happy with it. We'll get back when it's completely dry and we'll show you how we stain it. Alright guys, how we doing? So we've let this rack dry for about 48 hours now. So now we're in the final stage. So the first thing I do, I take some sandpaper. I mean, it doesn't have to be like really tough sandpaper. I prefer the fine stuff, but I mean, you just pretty much go along everything. You don't have to, but honestly, I think it makes it look a lot better, even with the little creases you put in it. I mean, this gets the fingerprints out and the rough parts that you didn't get to when you were making the mold. But as you can see, I mean, the more you sand it, the softer it gets. And I mean, it kind of, you can get it look like a real tine. And I put those little creases in there, but sanding it does not make one difference. It still leaves the creases. It gets all the bad stuff out that you really don't want in there. You know, I usually sand it for probably 5 minutes. I mean, depending on how it looks when I get done. It all just kind of depends on the person. I mean, some people might not sand it at all. That's up to them, but I like to at least get the rough stuff out and make it kind of look slim and as flat as you can possibly get it. And as you notice, there's some rough parts and some flat parts. I like to even all that out. I mean, it's not like there's a professional way to do it. I just kind of do it until it looks as good as I think it will get. And honestly, I think this rack turned out really good. Like, I almost think it's probably one of the best ones I've ever done. I don't know why, but for as long as it actually was really easy. Probably won't be for you on your first one, but it's all about learning and experience. So I think this one's pretty much sanded to where I want it so far. I mean, I kinda, when I made the mold, kinda got it where I wanted it. Yeah, see, that's really soft. So when you look at it, you're gonna see bumps and divots, and I mean, you can sand those out if you really want to. But I mean, it kind of depends on the rack. I mean, if this rack's gonna be sitting up on the wall, I mean, you're not gonna notice little divots and bumps and stuff. But I mean, I'm a perfectionist myself. I mean, if you really want to get it perfect, just keep sanding until it looks perfect. That's how I do it. But just depends on the person, I guess. Like, this time's pretty much good. It's a little divot I need to get now. And like I said, you don't need real tough sandpaper. I mean, I got real thin, small grit, and it does the job. I've tried using a sander before, and the sanders kind of get more than you really need, so I wouldn't recommend it. But I mean, if you want to try it, go ahead and try it. And this is more of an educational video than anything. I'm not trying to tell you how to do your antlers, but this is how I do it. Alright, I think the time's pretty much good on this one. So now I'm going to get down to where the mold meets the antler, which honestly to me is the toughest part. Trying to make it blend in and look normal. Kind of a pain in the butt sometimes, but you know, you gotta get it perfect if you want to look good. And I mean, this stuff is, with sandpaper, it's pretty workable. I mean, it doesn't take a whole lot of time to get it how you want to get it, but at the same time, I mean, it is time consuming if you want to get it to look perfect. I actually think it's turned out really good. I'm pretty impressed on myself, actually. And you know, don't get stressed out about these antlers, because I mean, if it comes down to it and you mess up, you can always chop it off and redo it. I mean, it sucks, but if you mess up and it doesn't look how you want it, you know what, redo it, because it doesn't really matter. I don't know how well you guys can see this antler, but to me, I mean, it looks like a real tine. Pretty big 8-pointer, actually. We're going to get to the stand. So, here's what I use. I use Van Dyke's antler stain in order to Van Dyke's website. So the first thing I do is get a little piece of cardboard. Dump a little bit on there. You don't need a lot because a little bit goes a long ways. Get some paper towels ready. So I take a wire brush. I mean, people have their different methods. I use a wire brush because it seems to work the best for me. Because I mean, you make those little divots and creases, match the antler, and the wire brush fills in those cracks to make it look original. Take that wire brush and dip it in the creases. Take the paper towel. Wipe it off. It's already looking as dark as the most of the antler. Just keep scratching in those little creases. Wipe it off. It's really not as difficult as people think. You know, I've watched a lot of videos of people doing this stuff. I've never seen someone use a wire brush. And one day I just tried the wire brush and I'm like, man, that looks really good. So I think the back side's pretty good. The wire brush and some more stain. Kind of scrub those cracks a little bit. Take that paper towel and just keep rubbing over it. And I mean, like I said earlier, if you feel that your stain has gone too dark, you can always resand it. Don't feel like it ruined your whole antler just because it's too dark. You know, sometimes I'll even go back over it just to make it a little darker. Sometimes they'll get a little darker than you want it to be, and just sand it off. For some reason, I just love this wire brush. I just feel it works really good for filling these cracks and alright, so the antler's looking pretty good so far. I think we're gonna kind of put some more stain on it. Let it sit for a second or two. I like to blot it a little bit. Just kind of get it all around. You know, you want it to look messy, not clean, because I mean, antler doesn't look clean normally. back side. And like I said, those little divots you make, like I said with the screwdriver earlier, you can take this wire brush and you can pretty much fill in all those cracks. Keep scrubbing, they'll get filled in. And sometimes when I get done with most of the antler, I'll go back and just focus on those cracks. I mean, you want it to look just like the other G2. And some people might not use the wire brush. I mean, that's all depending on the person, but that's how I do it, and it seems to work out pretty dang good for me. I do a lot of antler repairs for people and European mounts and all that, and as far as antler repairs, I really haven't had a single complaint yet, but me making this video, with my luck, I'll probably get a complaint here soon. I think it looks pretty good though once you get done. I mean, looking up close, you can obviously tell that it's a fake antler. But, I mean, you look at any rack that has a repair on it, you're gonna tell, no matter what. I mean, I try and do it as good as I can, but I mean, sometimes you just can't get it exactly how it's supposed to look, but I mean, it's a fake antler. You can't really make it much better than it is. So this antler is pretty much stained for the most part. Right now I'm just going back through them little cracks. A lot of times I'll get to the cracks and let it sit for a second and then kind of blot it out. Try and get it pushed down in there. Don't be afraid to get some stain on there. Like I said, you can sand it out. It's not a big deal. I think this antler is pretty much good. Kind of go around where the mold beats the base. Make that look as good as you possibly can. And I think this antler actually looks pretty good. I mean, if you miss something, you can always go back and redo it. Put some more stain on it. It's not like it's gonna hurt it. I think it looks pretty good. I think we're pretty much done with this one. I don't know how well you can tell the difference, but it looks like a real rack to me in person. The time's about matched up identical. The antler looks perfect. Staining looks good. The stain looks good. Can't get much better than that. See it like that or not, but it's not that difficult. I mean, it just takes practice, but hopefully this video will help you guys watching, and if you have any questions, don't be afraid to comment. We will get back to you. Thank you.